Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Come here. I want you. Come here. I want you. Come here. I want you. I want you.
This is a familiar story, dark, perverse, and perhaps even titillating. It is a story of science and its fictions, but it does not privilege the machines, nor does it speak of machines overcoming the human. The animal future awaits.
The recorded lecture you are about to hear was prepared for sound seminars. The subject of this sound seminar is a re-evaluation of psychoanalysis.
How memory is organized in a general way using tones as stimuli to get an angle on memory. I'm trying to discover patterns of interference in memory between tones, and if I can show...
Well, my father was a hunter. I grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania. My father was a hunter, and he had me shooting a gun when I was 6 years old.
I have a very bad memory.
This happens a lot of times. The father gets the boy interested, and it continues through the family.
It's a great combination.
Psychological Goldmines, they give till the data runs dry. Psychological.
Chimpanzees use a variety of extremely expressive sounds. The apes are very active, jump up and down, and loudly slap the sides of their enclosures with their hands and feet. Breakfast consisting of milk and fruit is being served.
Living robots. Little rhesus monkeys, as you may have read, are often used in space and other scientific test programs. Frequently, they're sent on dangerous assignments so that scientists can learn from them what might happen to men under similar conditions. Of course, it would be foolish to let a monkey whittle with the dials of a spaceship. Another related problem that often arises is whether a monkey's behavior can be controlled. That is, can scientists make him do a certain thing at a certain time that he might not do otherwise? Until recently, in order either to record or to control an animal's behavior, it was necessary to use devices that weighed many pounds and had to be plugged into a source of power, such as a wall outlet. If researchers had had to use these heavy instruments with monkeys, the animals would not have been free to move around. Now, because of amazing developments that have taken place in the last few years in microelectronics, the technique of making exceedingly small electronic circuits, it is possible to build a tiny transmitter and receiver system complete with batteries. It's so small that the whole unit weighs only 7 ounces and can be strapped onto a monkey's head without bothering him at all. Without bothering him at all. Without bothering him at all.
So I'll give you a little after-dinner music, and if you can make anything out of the conversation, so much the better.
subject is not the object you're looking at. That it's actually this idea of what is it connected to, how does it work, where does it come from? And these are just ingestion organs. They're just the things that are sucking out data, but they don't actually tell you anything. You have to do this much deeper, much slower and painstaking work of like, what actually makes it function? And once we open up the lens as wide as we can, we start to get really interesting stories.
The spirit of automation courses through this mixtape. The spirit of automation courses through the electrolytic gated transistor. The spirit of automation beckons us to correspond with it.
And we have some tapes, and I think we've licked the electronic bugs.
Seems to me that's the central problem of psychology. Just as in the 19th century, think how peripheral the psychologists were. They were studying sensation, but I think we're still carrying the outer works and not getting to the citadel. And the citadel is a thought process. But what the 70s or the 80s or the 90s, we have to look pretty much to the computer people.
I guess it was a book I read by Donald Hebb that influenced me a lot. He was very interested in how you learn the connection strengths in neural nets.
Donald Hebb remains one of the great theorists of the science of memory.
You get the idea that you want to remember it. You want to remember it. You get the idea.
Hebbian theory is a neuroscientific theory claiming that an increase in synaptic efficacy arises from a presynaptic cell's repeated and persistent stimulation of a postsynaptic cell. It is an attempt to explain synaptic plasticity, the adaptation of brain neurons during the learning process. It was introduced by Donald Hebb in his 1949 book The Organization of Behavior.
Welcome to Database. Hello, Jane.
Hello, Jane.
And of course, the essence of the thesis in that book was that there's a very solid factual basis for at least conceivable cognitive psychology in this respect. The physiological psychology that had existed before had been very much SR psychology, Watsonian, and it may well be that part of the rejection of physiological psychology was on that basis, that Lashley destroyed it on that basis. He said, I think you should work with Lashley. I think he's wrong. But if he has an idea about what goes on in the head, he opens up the head to see if he can find out more directly. He looks for the evidence as directly as possible and tries to be as factual about his theorizing as possible.
Come on, Matthew. See, I'm making a boat for the bathtub.
Carl Lashley's experiments in the 1920s were performed on laboratory rats. First, the rats were trained to remember the route through a tricky maze into a courtyard where a bowl of food awaited them. Then, Lashley surgically removed a section of their brains and retested them through the maze. Dr. Donald Hebb, who worked with him, recalls Lashley's findings.
He found that the memory for the maze deteriorated with the size of the brain damage. If he removed a lot of cortex, then the animal was likely to have pretty well forgotten the maze.
Studying memory. A very simple stimulus. Memory. Memory.
The human brain is not like a computer. It is made from billions of neurons connected together in thousands of ways. Patterns and regularities perceived by the senses are therefore remembered as similar patterns of neural discharges. A new experience coming in through the senses changes the strength of the connections. The pattern is then subsequently remembered. The pattern is then subsequently remembered. A new experience coming in through the senses. Patterns and regularities. Patterns and regularities. The human brain is not like a computer. The pattern is then subsequently remembered.
My memory's really good except for important things.
Chip, the chimpanzee, swings from tree to tree. Doesn't worry about what the future may bring. Finds a little tree where he can swing. Chip, the chimpanzee. Chip.
Monkeys really do shine. They certainly do. One of the very best places in the world to study animal intelligence is at the Yerkes Laboratories of Primate Biology in Orange Park, Florida. And the studies conducted here have made a considerable contribution to our scientific knowledge. Many primates are studied, and the favorite subject is the chimpanzee. One good test of intelligence is to find out if an animal has memory.
Chip, the chimpanzee, swings from tree to tree. Doesn't worry about what the future may bring. Finds a little tree where he can swing. Chip, the chimpanzee. Chip.
The keeper leaves the building for the day, and the apes sound unhappy.
I stared at Alpha through the aluminum mesh of her cage. The first chimpanzee born to the anthropoid experiment station. Our love has launched this world-hurdling age, this time of abjection and artificial intelligence. Alpha is her name.
How are we different from the computer? What else do we have?
It's not human.
That's right.
We're not human. You're human, but a computer isn't human. That's what I said.
Right.
People don't have buttons that a computer does.
What buttons on your shirt? Can the computer think?
Machines really can learn.
Psychologists are mostly interested in how human beings behave.
Machines really can learn.
Psychologists who study learning often conduct their experiments with animal subjects.
Now let's see if the computer has as much trouble with the alphabet.
People don't have buttons that a computer does.
You mean we're going to see the computer do what the child did?
That's right.
Well, if the computer is this important, why haven't I heard more about it?
It's not human. It's not human.
That's right.
This enormous collection of wires, tubes, transistors, and circuits connects the largest computer memory now operating. That's the memory over there.
All that's a memory? You mean, Professor, that I am somewhat programmed? In other words, that there are rules built into me that make me react sometimes similarly to a machine?
Right.
By observing children growing up, psychologists have seen that at different stages, children perceive the world in quite different ways.
Or one of the main divisions of learning is operant conditioning. And that's simply the modification of behavior by its consequences, whether they're pleasant consequences or unpleasant consequences.
We use a number of tests
puzzles and problems to study learning. Some experiments provide a reward for one sort of answer, and punishments such as a mild electric shock for another.
Gradually shape that behavior into what you want.
This test is a good one because it's a simple one, and it can be used on almost any kind of animal there is.
How does learning happen on its own? How do cell assemblies develop? These are the questions we ask together.
Well, there are many things which machines can do today, which if they were done by human beings would certainly call thinking. Have you ever watched a child try to learn the alphabet?
Neural networks model the brain, not the mind.
We've found that learning depends on physical as well as mental considerations.
They are small learning machines.
What is a computer? If someone knows nothing about it, what would you tell them a computer is?
What we would like in the future is a more general computing system capable of learning by experience and forming inductive and deductive thoughts.
Imagine monkeys, or possibly even human beings, controlled by electronic devices embedded in their brains.
What's a computer?
Electronic devices.
What's a computer?
In their brains.
What's a computer?
Electronic devices embedded in their brains. By this means also, scientists can sit on the other side of a room, or even miles away, and produce electronic signals that are fed through the tiny radio receiver directly into the monkey's brain. With the right series of electrical pulses transmitted into the monkey's brain, it is possible to turn a perfectly passive and happy monkey into an angry, aggressive, overactive one, and then back again to a friendly creature. These techniques have many other possible applications. Some of them are a bit frightening and were thought of long ago in science fiction. Imagine monkeys, or possibly even human beings, controlled by electronic devices embedded in their brains.
What then does learning do? Recent researches indicate that what it does is this. It causes certain emotions, notably those of hope and fear, to get conditioned to the stimuli inherently associated with some action which has been followed by reward or punishment.
What's a computer?
Electronic devices.
What's a computer?
In their brains.
What? What's a computer?
Electronic devices embedded in their brains.
Hi, I'm Kelvin Trinzel, the founder and CEO of Infinity 88. We have all seen the balance of nature destroyed by commercial and communal attempts to meet public supply, demand, and social concerns. Our environment, social order, and pathways toward individual wellness have become the victims of global compound ignorance. We cannot go back in time to correct our mistakes. We must continue to move forward. Infinity 88 is designed to do just that. Infinity 88 is the first and only tech wellness group to artificially simulate problematic conditions that society has mistakenly eradicated. Our goal is to create a controlled organic balance between the good and the unpleasant for our social and spiritual equilibrium. The past is the problem. With my help, the future will be the cure.
Infinity 88, restoring nature's balance through technology.
I'm Kelvin Trinzel,